How is everybody doing this morning? Woo, woo, woo. Usually I have to do that like 3 or 4 times before we get that level of energy. I only had to do it once, but I still think you guys could do better than that. It's Sunday. I know March break is this week, so everybody's getting in the relax mode. Nobody got to drop the kids to school and do all that. But before we get into March break mode, it's all about celebrating Black mental health. All who thinks it's a great thing to talk about, celebrate, and focus on Black mental health. Can we make some noise, please? Beautiful. So let me just start by introducing myself. My name is Jamal Augustine. I'm the CEO and owner of M-Pro Graphics, one of the event coordinators for today's event. I'm going to introduce Brian, and he's going to tell you about himself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Richards. I'm a health promoter at Taibu Community Health Center. Thank you all for coming out this morning. I know we lost an hour's sleep, so shout out to everyone who was able to make it here on time. So today, as Jamal mentioned, we're here for the Black Mental Health Week closing ceremony. Right? This is a very, very important initiative because, Black mental health is something that impacts us on a daily basis, right? So we're here to celebrate, we're here to, support our local vendors, and we're here to have a great time, right? All right, so we're gonna get started with today's ceremony. Okay, so we're gonna have Phil Johnson, who will be up on the stage to give his opening remarks for today. Let's give a round of applause for Phil.
Thank you, Brian and Jamal. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here. So my name is Phil Johnson. I'm the manager of Community Services and Systems Change at Taibu. And I'm here to represent this morning Lieben. Deborah Michael, who's our CEO, was supposed to be here, but Lieben sent his regrets. So hence you're stuck with me. And I know Brian said that he's a health promoter at Taibu, but Brian is much more than a health promoter. Brian's the guy who's organized this entire week. And he's been at this since, I think, November or October last year. So this takes a lot of planning. And it's a huge signature event for us here at Taibu, recognizing the differential impact that racism has on the mental health of Black folks. And it's so important that we do this annually and continue to do it annually until such time that it's no longer needed. So I'm going to start with giving the ancestral acknowledgement. And I'm a firm believer that ancestral acknowledgements are nothing unless there's a call to action as part of that. There's no point in saying the words. I remember back when I was in school a long time ago, we said the Lord's Prayer every day, right? And we said it, but there's no call to action. If you don't believe what you're saying, if you don't act on what you're saying, there's no point in saying it. So I'll read the land acknowledgement, but I'll ask all of you to think about what your action is as you move forward from today. And I'm improvising because I hadn't planned on being the person today. Thank you. And as long as my phone cooperates, so here. So, we are staff of the Taibu Community Health Center. We respectfully acknowledge the sacred land in which we gather today as a traditional territory of the many indigenous nations who preceded us for thousands of years. This has been the land of the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Seneca, the Chippewa, the Inuit, the Métis, and the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit. We share responsibility with the caretakers of this land to ensure the dish is never empty and to restore relationships that are based on peace, friendship, and trust. We take this moment to openly reflect on the history of these lands that we now call home and commit to aligning with the struggle of our indigenous neighbors and supporting their future. We are also treaty people. Many of us have come here as settlers, immigrants, or newcomers in this generation or generations past. We acknowledge the 400+ year history of communities of African descent in Canada who are not settlers. but who were forcibly displaced from their lands and brought to the Turtle Island against their will as part of the transatlantic slave trade. We are indebted to our ancestors and recognize generations past and their strength and resilience. Today, we continue their work fighting for our collective benefit, denouncing colonial histories, breaking down systemic barriers, improving the health and lives of our communities, and pushing back against anti-Black racism. We are committed to real and impactful change for today and hope for generations in the future. As I said, my title is Manager of Community Services and Systems Change, and I consider the systems change part of that the most important part. If we don't change the existing systems, we will just continue to exist. We're going to tear them down and rebuild them from the ground up. Thank you very much. Turn it back to you.
Thank you, Phil. All right, so we'll continue with the Canadian National Anthem by singer Mel C.
Good morning, each and every one of you. Can we all stand, please? Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. Car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you.
Can you please remain standing for the Black National Anthem by Friday?
Good morning, everybody. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Thank you.
Thank you for those beautiful renditions. Next, I want to introduce our Deputy Mayor, a friend of Taibu, somebody who has worked tirelessly with us over the years, and really appreciative of her being here today. So welcome, Jennifer McKelvey.
Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. And I am a huge fan of Taibu. I'm so very lucky that the health center is just across the street in Scarborough, and really, I think, 10 meters away from my community of Scarborough Rouge Park. So I think it counts, and I consider myself part of that community. Taibu is doing so many wonderful things across the city, and I get to brag about all the great work they're doing, including on the Toronto Community Crisis Supports pilot that started. Taibu was one of the areas, and it's now expanded to serve all of Scarborough. And there's just such incredible work there that is being done to help the Black, Indigenous, and also the Francophone communities in Scarborough that we know have not received the service that they need in mental health supports. And so it's just a real pleasure to be here with you in this beautiful space. The first time I'm being here alongside one of my new council colleagues, Amber Morley, who is doing so many amazing, great things at the City of Toronto. And in just such a short time, I've really become a huge fan, and I know we're going to see great things from her over the course of the next 4 years and far into the future. So the work that Taibu does in healthcare and community crisis response has just had a tremendous value, and we all recognize that and are hugely committed to expansion of the program. And we also know this week shows us through mental health, Black Mental Health Week, that we all need to play a role in reducing the stigma associated with mental health challenges. And it's important that we recognize that the challenges that are faced by the Black community are distinct and different, and that anti-Black racism can have a devastating impact on the mental health of Black Toronto residents. And this week really raises awareness about that and brings that into the forefront. And we know it's something that we need to do beyond just this week, as we recognize the impacts and the legacies that the current realities of anti-Black racism and systemic discrimination can have on the mental health of Black Torontonians. And this week gives us that opportunity to raise awareness, and I'm so thankful for all the work that Taibu and others have done this week to raise that awareness, and importantly, all the work they're doing to act. Last night we had the burn at City Hall. It was an opportunity to recognize 3 years ago the World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was the ability for us to cleanse and to really recognize the true loss that we've had on our communities and the impacts that it still has, in particular on mental health. And the pandemic showed us that those impacts are not being felt the same way by everybody. And it further highlighted the social, economic, and the political marginalization of Black Toronto residents. So that was very much at the forefront of last night's discussion and how we can all move forward together. So we recognize the call to action to recognize and respond. And at the City of Toronto, we have the Confronting Anti-Black Racism strategy, as well as the Confronting Black Racism unit. And a big mandate of theirs is promoting the mental health and well-being of Toronto's Black residents. So through this action plan, we know we have more to do. We're moving in the right direction. I thank you for coming along and helping us on that journey, on guiding us. Your voice is important to shape that work and to bring it forward into the future. So just thank you again for having me here. Taibu has been very wonderful at inviting me to events and giving me the opportunity to learn aside you. Every time I come, I learn something new, and that also today as I went around to the vendors, and many of them are sharing their wonderful stories. So I appreciate that opportunity to continue to learn and grow, and thank you for having me here today.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey, and for your kind words. And next I want to introduce one of our new city councilors, Amber Morley. And representation is so important. It's so important in all the work that we do that we see ourselves in that work. And having people on city council who look like us and represent us is huge. And that spans the entire spectrum. It doesn't matter in schools, you want to see principals, vice principals that look like you. You want to see people who are policing us, who look like us. I'm thankful to have our counselor, Amber, Morty, with us today.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction. I'm going to stand right here and hope the mic works out with me. Thank you. So as was mentioned, my name is Amber Morley. I am newly elected member of Toronto City Council. And it's thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure and an honor to represent Etobicoke Lakeshore Ward 3, but also to be one of 25 plus our deputy mayor, or 25 officially now at the moment, as we have a vacant mayoral seat. I hope you all are going to be paying close attention to the upcoming race. Our voices and our votes absolutely matter, and it's going to be important for us to talk to our family and our friends and to get engaged. But today it's about being here to celebrate Black Mental Health Week. And as a member of the Black community, I definitely appreciate the organization and the important work that's gone behind this. So thank you to those who've been putting in the work. Obviously, mental health is something that affects all of us very deeply. And as members of the Black community with long-standing and deep traumas and harms that have gone on to our community over the years, we need to be intentional about holding space for ourselves, having conversation and unpacking that harm and that trauma so that we can move forward and thrive in communities. It's important that we ensure and hold our systems accountable to the change that they want to be making. And it's more than just words, as was mentioned. It's about the action. It's about the follow through. And without having representation and voices around the table that appreciate the experiences of those in the community that have worked really hard to have our voices heard but not always been engaged or listened to. It's really, really critical at this time as we continue to navigate as a community that our voices are at the table and we are part of making solutions and making a way forward. So it is my pleasure to have the ability to do that. I really love this year's theme of Be You and Be Well. Something that I did a lot of work around in my previous role as a health promoter at Lamb Community Health Center with an incredible group of female leaders, Black female leaders that I got to work with there, was always really focusing on how can we ensure our whole teams can show up as their authentic selves. And again, without seeing yourself represented in spaces and places across, the spectrum of work, it is really difficult to show up as your authentic self when there are different kinds of pressures and expectations that don't include you in your experience. So it has been an absolute pleasure to engage with co-conspirators and allies like Deputy Mayor McKelvey and those on council to start to make improvements that really ensure that our community is counted and considered. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for your work, for your engagement, for your advocacy. I also had a little feeling I needed to do some shopping today, but I was trying to keep myself away from the mall. But you guys all brought the goods to me, so I will not be leaving empty-handed. Thank you for that. And big shout out to all the vendors, the small business owners, and the entrepreneurs who are representing and bringing some culture and flavor from the Black community and sharing that with the wider Toronto community. It's one of the things that makes us so incredibly special. So keep bringing your full authentic selves, and we will continue to do the work to ensure we can be well together in our city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Deputy McKelvey and Councilor Modi, for being here today. All right, so up next, we will have Sankofa. Sankofa meaning going back to your roots. And Sankofa will be doing a libation today, all right?
You guys can give a big hand now. How are you doing today? I think we didn't have lunch yet. How are you doing today? You know, I wasn't supposed to be here on a Sunday. I think I was supposed to be here on a Saturday in Tropicana, the tropical of Siberia. Somehow the thing moved. And I hear this is the beginning ceremony. Because Brian didn't realize that we can't close Black Mental Health is 366 revolution. So this is the beginning ceremony until we meet again. Now, the reason why I had to bring out these things, and I'm not capable as I get old, I have no strength. I brought that child with the root. Because when we talk about Black mental health, folks, and the children just know who they are, that's resilience start to build from their beginning of time. That piece of work was done by we, the artists. And I wanted to be here today so you see it. If you touch it, don't drop it. It's a $5,000 piece of artwork, sculpture. But I wanted to bring it here today. I brought the drums, because it's the first technological instrument, the djembe. That's why you have the DJ, djembe. It's the first telephone in Africa. It celebrated the birth. It celebrated death. It celebrated coming of age. And I brought the Sankofa bird. The Sankofa bird, when I decided that I no longer wanted to keep the European name, the Sankofa name selected me. And my brothers and sisters from Ghana said, Sankofa, that's not a name. I said, but the name selected me. So, what I'm here, before I talk libation to you, is I just want to say to you this. We can't speak about mental health without knowing who you are. You have to know your roots. And somehow, I think we have abdicated our responsibility. When the Maasai warriors would greet each other, the young warriors in Kenya, they usually ask the question of each other whether they have children or not. How are the children? And the answer always is, the children are well. Everybody, I want you to say the children are well. That kind of thinky. Try it again. Because if the children are not well, we have to bring it into existence. Your mind is your most powerful. And if it's not happening in reality, then we have to create it. Everybody, the children are well. Because if the children are not well, they'll burn the village down to feel its warmth. That's why we say it takes a village to raise a child. And before I start with this thing, I'm going to tell you a story about the elephant. Because the elephant is very close to us as a family. There was once some elephant in Kenya. They were marauding these young bull elephant. They were mashing up the place. They were killing goats. They were mashing. The farmers got so mad in Kenya that they picked up their guns and they were going to shoot the elephants. And there was a learned gentleman, a very learned European gentleman, a very smart guy, smarter than me. He said, hold on here. Do not kill the elephant. Oh, let's hold a minute. And he said, just imagine, they kill the elephant mothers for their tusks. Just imagine. He said, I have an idea. And he said, why don't you put some elder male elephants in the community? In 2 weeks, all the violence stopped. When the elder elephants came to town and had some conversation with the young bulls. And some of us in our community said, well, you could think that for the elephant. Then what about our people? What about our people? If we could think that about the elephant. An elephant is a very close-knit family. We know the answer. We already have the black print. The question is, are we ready for transformation? And so now I'll remove this mask because I'm going to unmask myself. I'm going to unmask myself because we got to talk libation. Libation is something from the east of Africa, Kemet, Egypt, Ethiopia, to the south of Africa, Monomotapa, Azania, to the north to Tunisia, Carthage, where every time we gather of something important, we have to pour libation. Today I'm not going to pour it, but I'm going to show you what I would pour. I would pour the water, because the water is the most pure, the river water. And as I talk to you about the libation statement, I want to say to you this. Our ancestors did not come here through a trade. No Africans ever called it a trade. Africans, people populated the earth with Dinkinesh. Dinkinesh was found in Ethiopia. Our Ethiopian name is Dinkinesh. Everybody say Dinkinesh. No, that's kind of dead again. Come on, I know you didn't eat lunch. Everybody say Dinkinesh. They call her the mother of us all. Africa's contribution to humanity is life itself. Without Africa, there's no race. Just so you know, there's only one race, that's the human race, that came out of Africa. The only way we go crazy as a people, in terms of mental health, is because we lost ourselves. You took a person's name, you took them from their memory, and then now you say, look at them. I don't do that. Libation is always poured in this ceremony before we start anything of grandeur. So let us start with Dinkinesh, and everybody say Ashe. Ashe means so shall it be. We want to also remember all the civilization along the Nile Valley we call Kemet. Everybody say Kemet. The Greeks call it Egypt. We call her Kemet, the lands of the blacks. We build great pyramids like the 3 pyramids of Giza. Everybody say Menkaru. Khufu. Hey, Khufu, not Khufu. Khufu! You guys, I'm teaching you some language in this libation. So as we continue to build, we begin to repel invasion in Kemet. And first invasion we repel in the Ixos and King Narmer and Imhotep. Imhotep is worshipped as a god in Greece, Ekalepsos. The Greek worship Imhotep. Imhotep name means I come in peace. When you see young people don't have language, they could use the word Otep. Everybody say Otep. Otep. It means peace. And so as we learn African tongues and African language, it's very important. And I want to remember the Africans, the Kentucky Queens, the Queen Nzenga. Everybody say Queen Nzenga. From Nana Yara Sante Watanani of the Maroons in Jamaica to Sani Belair in Haiti, to Cecile Fatima, to George Bezalel, to Saul Leverteau, they fought in Haiti. They fought in Haiti to free themselves from slavery. And in Haiti, you call it Haiti, that was the first free nation, and they said any Africans come here will be free. And that's why Haiti suffers today. We want to remember the Africans in Jamaica, Busa in Barbados, we want to remember Kofi in Guyana, in the Berbice uprising. We are Pan-Africanists. We want to remember those Africans who fought in Africa, like at the Battle of Adwa with Menelik. Everybody say Menelik. Menelik. Empress Taitu. The husband and wife. Ethiopia have never been colonized because they resisted the Italians' invasion. You need to tell your children this. No great people celebrate their loss. They celebrate their victories. And we want to remember the Africans who fought on the ships like Amistad. They fought on the ships, some jumped overboard, and their bodies rest in the Atlantic Ocean. And so I want to take a moment to remember that when you see the hurricane build up from the Atlantic, it's African people sending their tears to you that you should never forget the struggles, the sacrifices, the 400 years of Arabic enslavement and European enslavement, and still we have not gotten our reparations or therapy. And so today we're struggling because we have the collective trauma of 1,000 years of oppression. Everybody say Mahafa. Come on, work with me here. Mahafa. It means the great disaster. And the great disaster continues today because even today we continue to struggle and fight. And we want to remember those Africans who fought in Canada. Everybody say Dudley Laws. He fought unjust laws. Everybody say Charlie Roach. He was a lawyer. Everybody say Sharona Hall. Milton Blake. They fought. Albert Johnson was one of the first shot here before George Floyd. Lester Donaldson, Hugh Dawson, Erica Sawe, Junior Manan, Raymond Lawrence. You have to remember the Young Street Uprising was because we no longer wanted our young people to die. What we're talking about mental health here is to say, one day we wish and we hope and we will make it happen that our children will not be attacked on the streets by those who are supposed to serve and protect. We want to remember our African people in this place. And as I close this ceremony, I guarantee you, every time you get up in the morning, you give gratitude. You give gratitude. I want to remember Nina Simone and Peter Tosh. If you need some songs, play Peter Tosh, Get Up, Stand Up. Everybody say, get up! Stand up! For your rights and not your wrongs. You must accept that. We want to remember Nina Simone. Everybody say, you're young, gifted, and black. We want to remember Nina, and we want to remember Billie Holiday. Everybody say, strange fruits. She resisted her music. And I want to bless this place with the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Everybody say, Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey. And as I leave the stage, I just want to say this. You must be yourself. You cannot hide from your roots. You cannot hide from your culture. So give yourself a big clap and make some noise. Make some noise, I say. No, it is good. We know the black print. So Brian, come take this microphone so I could go rest. I'm old.
Can we get a round of applause for Mr. Sankofa? I love the energy, I love the vibes. So again, for those who just joined us or who are coming in a little late, I want to welcome everybody. This is the closing ceremonies for the Black Mental Health Week closing ceremony. So, we have a great turnout here today. We have lots of vendors for you guys to check out. And I also just want to take a second and big up some of the partners, some of the companies, some of the organizations that helped make today possible. So, first thing I want to do is I want to give a big shout out to Deborah and Strides Toronto, because for those who don't know, it's been a whole week of online and in-person sessions, and Deborah from Strides has put in a lot of work to make sure this week has happened. So, Deborah, can you just come up here for a quick sec? Just a quick. I just want to acknowledge great people and great hustle. So this is Deborah from Strides. She's one of the people that, contacted me to help curate this event. So Deborah, I just want to thank you for being involved. Thank you for contacting me, and thank you for being a part of Black Mental Health Week and organizing such a great week of events. Anything you want to say quickly before we get to the next guest?
I just want to say, when I thought about who the person should be to organize this, you were the first person that came to mind. You have been a champion for Black communities all across the GTA. You have done Black book fairs. You have showcased vendors. You have supported speakers. You supported the truth about Black communities being not just resilient, but entrepreneurs, successful, educators, musicians, speakers. We're all of it. And we are not our trauma. And that's what you put forward. And so when you said yes, I knew it was going to turn into this. You make us all look good, Jamal. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. When I was calling Deborah up, I wasn't calling her up to give me kudos. But, as so it's goes, you got to take your blessings when it's given. So, with much respect and humble blessings, I accept those good words. So thank you very much. Just like Deborah said, one thing I do is I do a lot of community events. I like to support local businesses, entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, and anybody that's doing great things for the community, right? So I want to shout out everybody for being here today. And I want to also just take a second and make sure that you guys are aware of all the great vendors that we have on the right side, the left side, and the back of the room. So please, throughout the presentation, make sure you guys take a couple minutes. Ooh! I seen that happening in slow motion. But it's all right. Yeah. So but you can leave it up here. So we want to make sure we're taking a second and checking out all the local vendors over on the right side. and on the left side, there's lots of great products. Now, one thing about the vendors today, we had lots of people that wanted to be here and be involved, but the vendors that you see were chosen for a special reason. When you guys go to each one of their tables, you're going to notice that their products, their brand, everything about them represents being you and being well and being unapologetically yourself, right? So we have people like Fab Faces by Fiona, we have She Art, we have Naturalist Clinic, we have Julian Butler, we have Love Inks, we have Goss Debbie, anybody, Greatest Blends, we have Love My Melanin. We're going to hear more about the vendors throughout the day, but I don't want to spoil the fun. I want you guys to make sure you guys are taking time to go check out the vendors in between the performances. So we are going to get to our next performer in a couple minutes, but I also want to shout out one of the DJs here today, Black's Done the Place. Can we give Black's Done the Place a round of applause? Now, I've known Black's Done the Place for over 20 years. Everything I do, he's always supporting. So I want to say respect to you, brother. Enough love. He's doing enough things for the community as well. So Done the Place, big up yourself. We're going to play 2 songs, then we're going to get into the next performer. So while we play these 2 songs, feel free for you guys to check out the vendors for a couple minutes, and then we're going to be back with our next performer. Black's Done the Place. Let's go!
Wonder where I am. I searched everything. I came back to let you know. Got a thing for you, and I can't let go. My friends wonder what is wrong with me. Well, I'm in the days from your legacy.
You know, so you don't have to feel shy. Go to the backdrop. And Nathaniel, Forsyth, where are you? Any photos with any of the associates or the banners, you can hit up Nathaniel Forsyth Video in the Burgundy. Also want to remind people about lunch. So if you're here right now, do not go anywhere. We have free lunch, we have free drinks provided for everybody. Lunchtime, Toronto Archives, 255 Spadina, just north of Bloor. When you hear Spadina, you're thinking far west downtown, but let them know we're just north of Bloor. It's not too far, 10-15 minutes off the DVP. We've got lots of people checking out the vendors. I love the support. We have some drinks over in the kitchen on the left side. And
guess you wonder where I've been. I came back to let you know. Got a thing for you, and I can't let go. My friends wonder what is wrong. Got a thing for you, and I can't let go.
all right. So can we kindly and gently ask everybody to come back to
discuss the brief history of Black Mental Health Week. So Angie O'Brien, please come up.
Thank you. I now have to compete with all the vendors. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today. Many of you have traveled far and near to get here, and also to acknowledge that your presence here is part of this transition and transformation we're trying to see. And I know I'm competing with the vendors. Black Mental Health Day emerged in work that Taibu did with the City of Toronto starting in October 2019. The city, through its Confronting Anti-Black Racism Office led by Anania Grant at that time, approached Taibu to help with their next incarnation of the Toronto for All campaign. Taibu worked with the city, including Anthony Morgan, Mo Shirley, Nicole Welch, Natasha Hines, Fitzsims, most importantly a group of dedicated community members including Abiba Adan, Adena Bibi, Brittany Habib, Kenrick Douglas, Molly Tyson, Marilyn Remy Felsom, Leah Casa, Kashawn Bailey, and the city's advertising agency, Public Inc. Public Inc. was represented and is represented by Georgia Cottrell and a very talented and creative young black man, Julian Battersby Morris, and Taibu staff, including Liebman, Corinne Marshall, and Phil Johnson. There were many others who were part of this process, and they worked to develop and design over the course of several months what became the city's anti-black campaign. Out of the work that emerged, the concept that wasn't enough, and to have a month of Black History Month, which in many of our communities is a very taxing and emotional, draining time, as we all know. It was felt that the emotional and psychological drain on the Black community, having been placed to deliver Black History Month events, needed to be recognized. This gave rise to the idea that developed in a poster and the shelter campaign. I think it's at the front, the banner. But it also gave rise to the concept of having a day after the month of Black History Month to acknowledge the differential and effects of racism on the mental health and well-being of our community. In year one, at a time before the pandemic, when we were still meeting in person and we agreed to have a day to acknowledge this, the group chose the first Monday in March. That year, it was March the 2nd, 2020. That was the initial day. And in year one, we held a very effective healing circle at Tropicana Community Services. It was well attended and communicated and appreciated by the community members. By the time year two rolled around, the city was so excited about the work that was done that they extended a one-day event into an entire week, as you see today. To follow up for further exploration of how anti-Black racism impacts the mental health of the community, on many of us, this was their opportunity. We all have to deal with the same stressors and issues as the larger community. But as Black people, our issues are magnified and amplified by the ambivalence and dismissal of the larger society. In 2021 and 2022, the pandemic limited our in-person activities and we went online. The organizations Taibu, the city, Strides, and Tropicana all delivered virtual engagement and keep the issue of mental health in the fore. This was amplified also through the community and across the community, including across the country, including Ottawa and Vancouver. They also made a Black Mental Health Proclamation. As we conclude, therefore, this is a very important community event today, and it's important that we remember that none of us are in this alone. The city, Taibu, Tropicana, and Strides, and our partners, our new partners, are working to bring meaningful solutions to systems change initiatives, to issues that affect our community. This is a brief history of Black Mental Health Week. Black Mental Health Week and the acknowledgement of its impact is young, and this is still, and there's still much more work to be done. I hope that you've taken full advantage of all the workshops that we delivered in the past week and the activities also that we were engaged in. And I hope to see you, and we hope, all of us collectively, hope to see you in next year for Monday, March 4th, 2024. So mark your calendars, please. Be you and be well, and thank you for making this journey today.
Thank you, Andrea. That was a really great speech, and thank you for introducing the history of Black Mental Health Week. Andrea is also part of our planning committee, so you could give another hand to her as well. So, good afternoon, everyone. If we could give another clap if you're excited to be here today. Wonderful. So my name is Christiana Oladeyinde, the project assistant of the Amar Generation Project at Taibu Community Health Center. To provide a bit of a background, the Amar Project is a peer-designed and peer-led mental health project created by Black youth for Black youth with an Afrocentric lens. The goal of the project is to develop a resource and a tool for peer training to build capacity and spread awareness within the GTA. So I'm kind of already working in the back end of things. So just to give a bit of history of my introduction to Taibu and to all of these amazing, wonderful events. This was my very first time being introduced to Taibu, and honestly, I'm truly blessed because of the community. Like many of us, finding that sense of community and belonging may pose challenging, whether that be in our youth, our childhood, or as adults. We are constantly met with experiences of systemic racism, oppression, racial trauma, and hardship. Over the past week, I learned so much about how much of our lived experiences are based on narratives that we had no part in. Stereotypes, the strong Black woman, strong Black man trope, school to prison pipeline, adultification, no choice but to resist by merely existing. We may not be chained physically, but every day we are carrying weights, and every day we are weighted down in systems that were not made for us. My job and my goal is to make sure people see themselves and the best in themselves beyond the chaos. Hashtag be you, be well. This year for Black Mental Health Week, I led the youth engagement portion alongside my colleague at Taibu, partners with Africa Center in Edmonton, so it was nationwide, Tropicana Community Services, Black Health Alliance, and several other partners and team leaders to put together events and topics for Black youth that recognize their challenges as well as highlighted their strengths. One of the biggest challenges we face as youth is not being able to live as youth. I know the politically correct range for that may be 15 to 18 or maybe 16 to 29. Anyways, when I say youth, I'm referring to all of us because we all have a sense of youth within us. Just to highlight a few sessions, one of which included a powerful session by Eric Awa that involved us creating our own story and our own narrative. Truly an incredible time. We had Petra Amaeko, who challenged the strong Black woman narrative, and so many other powerful voices throughout the week. But I just want to bring one thing up. Aren't we tired? I referred to challenge 3 to 4 times as I've been speaking, and now 5. Constantly challenging. I'm absolutely blown away by the sheer acknowledgement of the different aspects of our Black mental health we touched on this week. But for our community, I just want to acknowledge rest. I want to acknowledge the time for rest, to take breaks. I want to make sure that Black Mental Health Week can also exist as rest. I remember when I was in school, and anytime I laid my head down and I heard someone coming to the door, I would immediately get up as to say, no one can see me resting. Otherwise, they may think that I'm lazy or I'm not doing the work that I should be doing. How many of you have had similar experiences? As you can see, many of us. So, I wanted to initially highlight these past few months of planning, but I would say that, I would say that would be a disservice. We are Black all year, so whole year from start to end, we continue this cycle. So I just want to recite a brief poem for you all today. For the sake of our youth to remain youth, rest. For the sake of our community, rest. For the sake of our work, rest. For the sake of our narrative, rest. For the sake of our resistance, rest. For the sake of our lives, rest. For the sake of our joy, rest. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Christian. That was beautiful. Now, I also want to let everybody know that we also have some free books over to the left side. Those books are provided by the Fantastic Book Fair. That's our book fair brand that we have going on. So for all the youths and the adults, anyone in attendance, if you go to the left side of the staircase, you'll see a table displayed with some different books, different topics. Those are absolutely free, so please feel free to help yourself and grab a book for yourself, a family member, or a friend. Because we want to make sure we promote positive mental health, and part of that is keeping reading, keep learning, and sharing information. So make sure to go grab a book, because it's all about Black mental health. So what I want to do next is I would like to introduce our next guest. Now this lady I met a couple months ago, but I've been seeing her do her thing over the last couple years. She's an entrepreneur, she's an artist, she's a performer, and she's an overall great person. I would like to introduce to you Miss Tracy John.
Good day, everyone. Good day. Feels so good to be here. I love all the smiling faces. And I like to always say this before I start. Artists feed off of energy. So anyone you see come up here, every ooh, every ah, every snap, every clap, it means a lot. They need that from you, and I want that from you. Can I have that from you? Yeah. We need that from you. Be you, be well. I heard from the grapevine that on April 20, commonly known as 420, Cloud 9 hits maximum capacity. So you know what that means. This April 20, there won't be room for you or for me. See, a lot of people stand and wait in line to get on that train to elevation, to get on that train to get some good mental stimulation. But I came here with a different plan. See, I also heard from the grapevine that when you use the mental health resources in your life, when your mental health is in line, when you use the support systems in your life and you lean on the people that truly love you in your life, you get the same feeling as if you're on cloud 9. Only difference is You don't have to pay $120 an ounce, and you get a much longer lasting high. Statistics Canada said only 38% of Black people use the mental health resources available. When asked why, most of us say that we don't feel comfortable. For whatever reason, we don't feel comfortable. Since when do we need to be comfortable to get high? Since when do we need to be comfortable to protect our mind and elevate our mind? I will tell you, comfort is your burial ground. Where there is comfort, no growth can be found. And you will notice that mental health issues starts coming around the moment we choose to stay in our comfort zone. See, I like to be on a high. So to protect my mind and to keep my high, I had to get uncomfortable many times in my life. I had to get uncomfortable and let people go who no longer serve me. I had to get uncomfortable and stop the self-talks that nested and consumed the better part of me. I had to get uncomfortable and convert self-sabotage into the gentle voice of Bob Marley and emancipate myself from mental slavery. See, I learned how to shape-shift my anxiety and my worry into my own keys to the city and unlock the vault of greatness that stood within me. And that part of me that often tells me I'm not good enough, I woke up one morning and I threw myself deep into the rough. I used my faith as my lifeboat, my confidence as my compass. I learned how to command the water and I ride the waves of discomfort. And every wave that I rode, it always took me back home, safe and unhurt. See, me standing up in front of you here today is being uncomfortable, but I like it. And I chose to do it because I want to elevate with you. See, I want to take up space with you. I want to grow with you, and I want to get high with you. No, I'm not here to roll up one with you. See, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take all the negative self-talk that we've been having with ourselves lately, and we're going to expire its shelf life. We're going to remove all the pain that we have stored in the creases of our smiles. Yeah. We're going to claim victory over the wars that we fight with ourselves inside. Let's manifest all the dreams we had as a little child. Come on now. Let's manifest all the dreams we had as a little child. Let's vow to protect our mental health. Let's vow to protect our mind. And I know 420 can give you that high. But see, when your mental health is aligned, remember, you get to have a much longer lasting high. I know it's all easy to stand here and say, I know it's all easy to stand here and tell, but you can do it. We can do it. You can be you. You can be well. Thank you. I can't help but admire this beautiful, this is amazing. This is indescribably beautiful. Don't you think so? Yeah. This poem is called Change. Some say I've changed. Some say I've switched up the game. Some say I am no longer the same. Some say I act as if the world revolves around me. Yes, I've changed. Yes, I've switched up the game, and yes, I am no longer the same. And yes, the world revolves around me. See, I created my own world, and in my world, I exist as a star in a galaxy, and you should do the same. See, I found my space in the cosmos. I found my purpose. I had a one-on-one conversation with the universe. We talked and we cried and we laughed and we danced. I was told it's time for me to take a stance. See, I was told that I am the sun and I must rise on days even when I don't feel like it. I was told that I am the moon, and when darkness thinks it overshadows me, I will be awarded with space to shine even more brightly. I am a light, I am a way, I will illuminate pathways with my words, one line at a time, so time I've learned should never be wasted. I've learned to love each moment I live in, because moment is time, and time is the only thing that proves we're existing. So yes, I've changed. Yes, I've switched up the game. Yes, I am no longer the same. But see, changing is never an easy feat. And if you don't believe me, ask the ground that I walk on. Ask the ground that I walk on. See, it filled its streams with the tears that I cried from the times that I thought that no one cared. Ask the ground that I walk on. It birthed earthquakes from my fears and my many failed attempts from the times when I jumped trying to reach for the sky. You still don't believe me? Ask the ground that I walk on. Crystals were formed from the shape of my knees when I couldn't stand. I had burdens so heavy my feet couldn't carry me. So yes, I've changed. Yes, I've switched up the game. Yes, I am no longer the same. But I'm not sorry I changed. See, it's now time for them to get to know me all over again. It's time for them to taste the nectar from this brand new flower again. It's time for them to get to know this new currency of confidence I now spend. So I'm not sorry I changed. See, I'm sorry for those of us that go through life choosing to stay the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we get another round of applause for Tracy John? That was lovely. So, before we bring on our next performer, we're just going to play a couple songs as they set up, and then we will shortly go to lunch. So, okay, we're not gonna play music. Christine, you gonna come?
Yeah.
All right. All right, Christiana, ready to go.
So I'll just briefly introduce the next person. That was such a beautiful poem, Tracy. Thank you for your words of wisdom. So next we have coming up Dr. Leo Edwards to speak about the Center of Addictions and Mental Health remarks. So if we could give a clap.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Sankofa, for libation, for acknowledging the ancestors that have gone before us, those that are known and unknown, Ashe. And like you, Tracy, I couldn't help to acknowledge and notice on the walls around us beautiful, strong Black women who have been at the center of Black liberation here in Canada. I couldn't help to acknowledge in particular Dr. Bufura Cooper, whom I've had the pleasure to sit under. So I'm here to offer remarks from CAMH. But before I do that, racial violence and discrimination has been and is the fabric of Canadian society. The way the laws are implemented, the weaponization of whiteness and privilege, the disparities that are so common in our education, health, and justice system, the horrible and senseless killing of Black people, historically and currently, all of these have indeed threatened the mental health and wellness of our community. These stigma, due to stereotypes and the experiences, have made it inevitably difficult for Black people to access mental health support. Black individual voices are often muted in many realms and are intentionally left out in very many spaces. The research states that people of Caribbean, East, and West African origin in Ontario have a 60% increased chance of psychosis. Black women, in particular, are 43% more likely to die from breast cancer. And a 2012 report by the Wesley Institute found that black immigrants in Canada my fonts are too small, need to put it a bit closer. Black immigrants in Canada were 76% more likely to assess themselves as being unhealthy than other racialized groups. At CAMH, we recognize that black mental health matters, and we were pleased to host 2 events during the Black Mental Health Week that brought together almost 300 clinicians and community members on the theme about black mental health and resistance. In February of 2021, CAMH launched a dismantling anti-black racism strategy, which has been a landmark strategy with 22 action items to decrease anti-black racism within our walls at CAMH. And we know historically, CAMH hasn't been so kind to black and racialized people. I'll be very vulnerable to say that here. We're pleased to report, though, that tremendous progress has been made on every action of those 22 strategies. And as we wrap this strategy up, we are committed and are beginning to think about the next iteration of what the strategy would look like. And after years of advocacy, the Ontario government increased funding for SAPACY to support the enhancement of the program at CAMH and the creation of a SAPACY network of 7 community-based sites across Ontario, which includes Taibu. This year, all sites are successfully open and we are continuing to work on the learnings and the evolving of the model. A new anti-racism, harassment and discrimination policy was also launched at CAMH and has been made mandatory for leadership. And the idea is that as our employees are aware and are trained up on what anti-black racism is and how it shows up at microaggression, that through those strategies and through that information, that they will provide supports to clients, patients, individuals that are accessing our hospital. As an organization, we endeavor to improve access to culturally responsive and affirming mental health care through research, clinical care, capacity development, and most certainly continued collaboration with community partners and individuals. We have a lot of work to do at CAMH, a lot, in order to create a more equitable space by providing an organization that respects the lived experience of black individuals. As the Senior Equity and Diversity Consultant at the hospital, and as chair of the Black Mental Health Month and Black Mental Health Week Committee, we are pleased to have partnered with Taibu and the City of Toronto, and is incredibly gracious to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Leonard, for those words. Thank you very much for those words. So again, I want to shout out everybody for being here today, and we want to make sure that we're networking, introducing ourselves to each other, sharing business cards, checking out the local products. Also make sure you guys are taking pictures over by the beautiful backdrop, and we have all these organizational banners from our partners that help put this thing together. So make sure you guys are also taking a stop by each banner, snapping a photo, posting on social media, letting the people know where you are right here today at the Black Mental Health Week closing ceremony, right here, City of Toronto Archives. We're here till 4 p.m. and lunch is in about 20 minutes, but before that, we're going to introduce our next guest. Now this dance crew I've known for a long, long time, and since I've known them, they've been representing the culture in so many ways. African drumming, Afro beats, different type of workshops and such. So I want to shout out Afui Groove. This is Durham's world's first, largest, and premier dance group. And if you're on social media, if you go to different events, then you must have heard about the Philly group because they're active and they're representing the culture in the right way. So I'd like to introduce a Philly group doing the Afrobeats performance. And this is the first performance for them for the day. So I want you guys to pay attention to what they're doing because we have a special treat for you guys afterwards. So I'd like to introduce a Philly group. Can we get a round of applause?
Maserati Wipa, Mofos Kena Kipa, Beach of Kamunasta, Zazu, Shi, Aka, Ika, Tesocho, Tesocho Vitalaka, Gaza, Ejalush Vitabacha, Rujupa, Lijupa, Mahir, Kala, Dachu.
Another banger, I'm in love with plenty women. I know my money, all of them. You know my body shape of all of them. Make sure I'm all scholars. I can't go and be my sponsor. You know why they call me honey. One way me with you, she did good like just a sucker. One leg, I love. Getting my own make you not dumb. But they move like a python. Love what they giving me high on. One leg, I love. After they go to the palace, they make you post on my canon. Love what they pussy my high on. I do like woman. I do like woman. Me and not the girl. Me and not the girl. I do like woman. I do like woman. Me and not the girl. Me and not the girl. I do like woman. I do like woman. Me and not the girl. Me and not the girl. I do like woman. I do like woman. Me and not the girl. Me and not the girl.
All right, can we get another round of applause for our Freeway Crew Dance Crew? So, hold on, I got a question. Who thinks, and I'm going to give you guys a second to think about this, about 10 minutes to think about this. Who thinks they could do what a Freeway Crew just did? What? Well, my hand's up. I'm going to ask again. But your hand was up? I want to know who thinks they could do what a Philly group just did? Nobody thinks they can do that? What did you say, you want to join? All right, well, you know what? Just because you asked, you're going to have your opportunity. I'm going to talk to my people and see if a Philly group can talk to their people, and I'll see if we can set something up within the next 10, 15 minutes. But Christiana, I'm going to hold you to that. So if my people and a Philly Grooves people can work something out, then you're gonna hear from me in a little bit. But in the meantime, I would like to introduce to you our next performers. Now, before I bring up these next performers, I just want to say something about drumming. They say music is the beat of the heart, right? And the beat of the drum mimics the beat of the heart. So the beat of the drum must mimic life. Right, so we want to big up Mr. Sherwin and the FND, also known as the Friday Night Drummers. Can we get a round of applause for Sherwin? Sherwin, how do you need the mic? Alright, so Sherwin is going to set up the drums. In the meantime, Blacks Down the Place is going to play one nice song to keep the mood going. And then as we let the beat of the drum stimulate our soul and stimulate our heart and stimulate our appetite, this will bring us right into the lunch hour. So I want to shout out Sherwin and the Friday Night Drummers. A next minute or two, and then we'll be back. Down the Place. Let's go. All right, now that's what I'm talking about. Energy, energy, energy. Can we get a round of applause for Sherwood and the Friday Night Drummers? I'm telling you, the drumming, the sound of the drums, it just does something to my soul. I'm walking around, I'm hearing the drummings, and then I just feel it. I feel the energy. Am I alone? Am I the only one that feels the energy with the drums? I don't know. See, Patsy feels it. I'm telling you, it just, something just starts moving. My body starts feeling warm and tingly. I just love it. The drumming, I tell you, the drums are the beat of the heart. Music is life. Is everybody, who's having a good time here today? Can we make some noise? I love it. This is beautiful. Now, we are about to go to lunch. But before we go to lunch, let me pick up my paper over here. And I just want to take a second. Let me stand behind the drums. Listen. How am I doing? Nah, I'm not even gonna try. But I want to take a second and I want to big up some of the partners that have helped put this on here today, put on this great event here today. Again, for those who don't know, my name is Jamal. I am from the EPG Creative Marketplace, also known as MPro Graphics. We do graphic design, print, creative marketing, innovative solutions, and we curate events throughout the city to help local businesses grow. My banner is over here and my table is at the back with a red tablecloth. Please grab some material, business cards, brochures, banners, and give us a call anytime you need help with your business. In addition to that, I want to big up Strides Toronto. Also want to big up Tropicana Community Services. We also have Delta Family Resource Center. I want to big up the City of Toronto, of course, and the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit. Also want to big up the Black Health Alliance. Shout out to George Hall Center for Children and Families, as well as the Women's Health in Women's Hands Community Health Center. We cannot forget about the Loyan Foundation, as well as the Africa Center. And of course, this day could not be possible without the great folks at Taibu Community Health Center. So I also want to take a second and big up all the vendors, all the local businesses that we have here today. Let's take a quick rundown and see who we got. We got Dr. Patsy over here. We have the Greatest Blends, so big up the Greatest Blends. We have Get Your Life Together right over here. And we have, who else we have over there? We have She Art right over here. We got Learn for Fun right over there. We got Goss Debbie right over here. We got Love Inks right over here. We got Julian Butler right over here. We got Zenobia right over here. And we can't forget about our folks over here at the back of the room. We got a special treat for you guys at lunchtime, so make sure you guys are tuning in. Who we got over here? We got Love My Melanin. Who we got over here? We got Latimer with, who? Did I say that right? I just gotta, because that M is in a different place. I'm like, let me see if I got this. We got Latimer with, and we got this beautiful, beautiful balloon decor. You're a cameraman, can I get a picture quick? Second cameraman, ready? Now people, you see how simple that was? I just simply walked over to the backdrop, had 2 photographers take 2 pictures of me in less than 30 seconds. I want to make sure everybody here does the exact same thing. It's all about letting everybody know where you are. It's all about a celebration here today. So if you bought something, you can grab a flyer, you can grab a business card, and go take a picture by the banner, and have a great time. With that being said, is anybody ready for some good food? Is anybody ready for some good food? Now, I know some of you aren't answering because some of y'all ate already and your belly's full. But for those who haven't, right about now we are going to break for lunch for about 30 minutes. So if you haven't eaten, please, 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 stand up on your feet. Please make your way to the room on the left side. All the food here today is absolutely free. So you don't have to pay for the food, you don't have to pay. During the lunch, while you're eating or when you're finished eating, I want you guys to take a deep breath where you are. So back by the brown wall at the back, Avaya Beauty, a business who has been working with us for the last, love what you're doing. I would like to offer my services to your event. Right there. I said, Nakia, the only way I'm going to let you offer relaxation massages at this event today is if I can be the first one to get the relaxation massage. And you know what? He's at the back. It's only a couple minutes. It's absolutely free for you guys, so you don't have to worry about it. And Nakia has a nice divider there, so you don't have to worry about it. But the root of this business, now if I'm correct, I believe Nakia, this big woman at the back, is actually an employee of the company. You guys hear me? She's an employee of the company. Now you know who the 2 bosses of the company are? Her daughters. She's Avaya Beauty, the name, the business, the model, it's young entrepreneurs. So this mother, Nakia, is supporting her 2 daughters' business. So can we get a round of applause for Avaya Beauty and the young entrepreneurs and the mom who supported her kids and the kids' business. So we love people that support Big Up Greatest Blends in the fam. We love to see vendors out there with their kids. We love it. So again, we're going to break for lunch. While we have lunch, we're going to listen to the nice sounds.
The moon, the stars, and the sun come shining down on me for all that you have done for me. I was never surprised when I opened up my eyes to see you break the bars and the chains. Telling your friends I'm a so loud. I really like what I'm seeing, so I won't back down. I know that you know my intentions. On the table I lay down my cards. I'm making all the pretend. We got so close together, I know she's sneaking around. Everywhere
check, 1, 2.
Welcome back, everyone. For those of you who are still in the room, if you can hear me, my name is Deborah Williams, and I'm Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at Strides Toronto. Thank you for joining us today on Sunday, March the 12th. This is the closing opening ceremonies for Black Mental Health Week. We're so glad you're here today. There's more happening this afternoon. And I'm glad you're enjoying all the great food and the vendors. But we're going to be having some more dancing coming up right after this. And just a reminder what Black Mental Health Week is all about. It's to focus our attention on the plight of Black mental health in our communities and to look at what we can do to combat anti-racism in all systems and make sure that we continue past this date into next year before we get together again. Make sure we keep a focus on what's important, which is our Be Well mental health. I want to remind you, you are at the Toronto Archives. And for those of you who don't know what this building is all about, it's literally that. And it's celebrating Black women in leadership. So you look around this room and these are photographs that are held by the Toronto Archives and brought out for your enjoyment. And then when you have a chance, go to my left and walk down this aisle here. There's this big glass wall and you can see into the archives. And you can see the vast amount of documents that they are keeping and preserving for us to remember who we are, and that includes everyone. They have a wonderful collection of Black history going all the way back to the beginning of Turtle Island. So make sure that you go back there and understand the building that you're in. It's a very important building, the Toronto Archives. I'm going to bring Jamal up, and he's going to introduce us to a Afib Groove, because they're going to do some more dancing for us. Come on, Jamal. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Is everybody having a good time here today? If you're having a good time, make some noise. I mean, I see people walking with bags. I see people mingling around and networking. I see people with plates in their hands. So it looks like everybody's having a good time to me. Is everybody having a good time here today? Now, if you are about supporting Black mental health, can I hear you say, yes, sir? Can I hear you say, yes, sir? Yes, sir! All right. So, did everybody enjoy lunch? I love the energy. I love it. I see everyone mingling around. Now, before we get into the next set of performances, I would just like to quickly request, if you're in the kitchen, in the food area, we are about to start the performances. So if you're in the food area and you're finished eating and you're ready for some action, we do request that you make your way back to the main room so the performers have a nice audience. You can definitely bring your food out there as well. Just keep it clean, tidy, and respectable. It's all about supporting local vendors, supporting local artists, supporting the community, and having a great time. Now, before we get back to the thing, I want to give a big shout out to this young fellow over here, right here. This young man here is another young entrepreneur. He's out here supporting today, he's not working. But I want you guys to look at, and I want you guys to look out for Chef Ale. Chef Ale, tell him how old you are. So 12-year-old young entrepreneur, he's a baker, he's a chef, he's doing it big, and he's been a multiple supporter at EPG events. He's a little shy, but don't worry, we're going to get rid of all that. Can everybody give a big round of applause for Chef Ale, the 12-year-old baker? Now he's been to many EPG events, and he's sold out many times. So don't think Chef Ale is a rookie in this. Again, 12-year-old entrepreneur, can you give a round of applause for Chef Ale? Because he said to me today, he said, Jamal, we're not bending, but me and my family are coming out to support. And I said, thank you, Chef Ale. I love it. So big up Chef Ale and the fam. Big up Mom for supporting the youth. We love it, we love it, we love it. Right, so again, we are about to get back to the performances. So if you're in the kitchen, if you're mingling around, we do kind kindly ask you to make your way back to the main area. Now, with that being said, I told y'all about our Philly groove already. We saw the Afrobeats performance. It was lovely. Now we are about to take a look at the Afro Ballet, because as you know, we are a cultured set of people, we are a musical set of people, and we have lots of different moves and steps to keep the people entertained. So I want to give a shout out to our Philly groove, and it's all about the Afro Ballet. Can we get a round of applause for our Philly groove?
Let me up, hold me down, keep me close, safe and sound, burning in a hopeless dream. Hold me when you go to sleep. Keep me in the warmth of your love when you depart. Keep me safe, safe and sound. Lift me up, hold me down, keep me close, safe and sound. Drowning in an endless sea. Take some time and stay with me. Keep me in the strength of your arms. Keep me safe, safe and sound. Lift me up, hold me down, keep me safe, safe and sound. Burning in a hopeless dream. Hold me when you go to sleep. Keep me safe. We need light. We need love. Lift me up in your arms. I need love. I need love. I need love. Hold me, 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 we need light, we need love.
All right, people, can we get a round of applause for our Philly groove and the Afro Ballet performance? Lovely, as usual. Okay, people. Now for this, before we do the next performer, I really actually would like everybody from the kitchen to come out to the main area. If you are standing around, please feel free to have a seat. If you're in the back of the room, If you're in the back of the room, feel free to move to the front and have a seat. Anybody in the kitchen, if you're in the kitchen and you're not eating, we're about to start some of the main features, so we would like to give the performers our full attention. So if you're not eating, please make your way to the main area, and if you are eating, you are allowed to bring your food out to the main area. Just keep it clean and respectable. Right? It's all about supporting Black mental health. I love how the book table is empty. I want to shout out everybody that's here today. The turnout that we have is amazing. This means you guys love each other. This is showing that we all care about mental health now. As far as I know, mental health is kind of a taboo in our community. It's not really something that is spoken about early. Many of us have a family member that might be going through some sort of mental health issue, but a lot of us brush it off like, oh, that's Joan's mad son, or, you know, that's somebody thing. But we gotta make sure we concentrate and focus on our own mental health as well as the mental health of our family members. That's why we're doing events like this, to show the importance of sticking together, being you, and being well. So again, what I would like to do is I would like all you fans, patrons, vendors, everybody that's here today, can you guys give yourselves a round of applause for showing how much you guys care about the community? And I think you guys can do better than that for yourselves. Can you guys give yourselves a round of applause for being here today? All right, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty, right? So before I introduce this next performer, I just want to say one quick thing, right? Now, over the last couple of years, I myself have been doing a lot of things for the community, a lot of things for the culture, a lot of things for businesses. And people always come up to me and give me motivation, inspirational words, say thank you for what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing. And I love it. But what you guys may not even know is that sometimes the motivator even has inspiration and motivation. And that brings us to the next guest. Now, when I first started hearing about this young fellow was when I used to live in Malvern. A lot of my friends used to tell me about this thing that used to go on every Monday night. So I checked it out a couple times, and I loved the vibe. I've seen creators, I've seen creatives, I've seen artists, I've seen poets, I've seen everybody mingling together in such a positive, united, creative space. And as I seen this young man, or this fellow rise, no pun intended, but as I seen this fellow rise to the heights of where he is today, I myself looked at this fellow and said, man, I love to see Black people, especially Black men, doing positive things for themselves and for the community. Now, as much as people respect me and tell me, big me up for what I'm doing, I myself looked at this fellow and said, man, you know what? I'm gonna meet this fellow one day and we're gonna do some work. Honestly, that was about a year ago I said that. I said to myself, I don't know what it is, how it is, but I'm gonna meet this fellow and we're gonna do some great things together. Now, almost a year later, through connections, and good timing, I ended up hosting an event featuring this young fellow. So I am actually honored, blessed, and humbled to be able to introduce this young fellow here to you guys today. Let me just pull this up. So like I said, I'm honored to be able to introduce this man here today to you guys. His name is Randall Ajoy. Now, many of you may have seen him on publications, many of you have seen him on TV, many of you have heard his inspirational words already. Now, Randall Ajoy is an entrepreneur, a speaker, and spoken word practitioner who uses his gifts to empower the message of alchemy. He was recently appointed Ontario's first poet laureate. So can we give a round of applause for that, first of all? Ontario's first poet laureate. Now, what an accomplishment, because Randall will never be forgotten in Canada, in Ontario, and in Canadian history. So we have to give respect where respect is due. Now, he is also the founder of one of Toronto's largest youth-led initiatives, Reaching Intelligent Souls Everywhere, also known as Rise Edutainment. In 2018, Rise received the Toronto Arts Foundation Mayor's Youth Arts Award. Randall is also the author of I Am Not My Struggles, a powerful anthology released in 2018. Randall was also named CBC's Metro Morning's Torontonian of the Year in 2015. And Now Magazine's Local Hero in May of 2017. In 2020, Randall opened up for President Barack Obama at the Economic Club of Canada. So, America's first black president and Canada's first poet laureate mingling in unison. Can we get a round of applause and welcome can we stand to our feet, please, and welcome Ontario's first poet laureate with honor and with respect, Randall Adjai. Now,
And my favorite thing to always say is, don't believe everything you think. I'm going to repeat that for you one more time. Don't believe everything you think. When a thought enters your mind, I want you to challenge that. When you think you're too fat, when you think you're too dumb, when you think you're a failure, when you think you can't get that relationship, when you think you can't pay those bills, when you think God has left you, when you think that man has left you, don't believe everything you think. Your mind is powerful, you are wise, but every thought that enters it isn't true. I challenge you to challenge yourself and challenge your thoughts. My name is Karen Carrington, and I'm glad to be your speaker today.
Thank you, Karen, for those beautiful words. People, can we stand to our feet, please, and give a round of applause for Karen Carrington. She could have been anywhere in the world today, people. Believe me, she could have been anywhere in the world, but she chose to be here with us today. So thank you, Karen Carrington, for those words. Much blessings and much respect. People, I would like to keep it going, and I'd like to introduce to you our next speaker. Now, before we introduce the next speaker, I want to know, is everybody having a good time here today? Lovely. I don't even think I need to do that again because I feel the energy and I could feel the love. So that brings us to our next guest. Now, I would like to introduce to you Meseret Aseneki. Now, Meseret is here representing the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit. She's going to here speak a couple words and we're going to be blessed with her presence. So Meseret, please.
Okay, can you hear me? Is that okay? A little low, okay. I don't think this goes higher for tall folks, but is that better? Good? Check, check? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that introduction, Jamal. As you heard, my name is Meseret. I'm a Community Development Officer with the City of Toronto's Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit. And, okay, wait, is the sound still okay? Should I stay here? I'm gonna have to change pages. Yeah, that's okay. You know what, let me angle it. That's okay, I can angle this, I think. A little bit. Is that better? I have some papers. All right, we're gonna multitask. You're gonna see me flipping through papers if that's okay. All right, so as I mentioned, I'm a Community Development Officer with the City of Toronto's Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit. My name is Meseret, and I also bring you greetings from our unit's acting manager, Kemba Bayam, our director of the city's Community Resources section, Dr. Apatu Kenti, and our executive director of the Social Development Finance and Administration Division, Denise Andrea Campbell. I'd like to start off by thanking our partners at Taibu Community Health Center for holding this space and inviting me to speak, of course, on behalf of the unit. It's really been, and I also just want to start off by thanking you all for showing up. I mean, it's so exciting to see folks in person, so thank you for also joining us in this space and joining us throughout the week. I've seen so many folks participating online and in person, which has been amazing to see. I also want to just acknowledge, for those of you who may not be familiar with our unit, that the Confronting Anti-Black Racism unit at the City of Toronto is responsible for the rollout of the Toronto Action Plan to confront anti-Black racism. It's a 5-year plan, and it was developed through community conversations, much like these types of spaces that we're in right now. And it's also a plan that we have interdivisionally, meaning that all divisions across, a number of divisions across the city inform the implementation of this plan. I also wanted to just name that we're in year 5 of this 5-year action plan. So you're probably wondering, what's going on? What's next? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later, but we are in year 5 of the action plan, and we are looking to, of course, hear from you, share with you, and have conversations like this as we're moving ahead. So as I mentioned, one of the really important components of the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Action Plan is that it's interdivisional, but it's also something that we built with community and is developed and implemented with community partners and leads such as Taibu. So an example of that is actually Black Mental Health Week, where we all are right now. We're closing out, but this is an example of one of the ways that this action plan has been implemented and one of the really important initiatives that have come out of the action plan. CABR, aka Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit. You may hear it affectionately referred to as CABR as well. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but you know, it's cool. And I've also had the honor of working and learning alongside our fearless partners at Taibu, who have really stewarded Black Mental Health Week. They've really stewarded since its inception as Black Mental Health Day in 2020. The city and Taibu Community Health Center partnered in 2020, as you've heard in a lot of the context about this initiative, for Black Mental Health Day to help highlight the impact of anti-Black racism on, the impact of anti-Black racism on our communities, and of course, to highlight what that meant in the context of our city as Black Torontonians in this city. Of course, addressing these barriers and what those impacts look like, it means raising awareness. So having those tough conversations, coming into these spaces like this and meeting like this, conversing with each other. But also it means allyship, right? And committing to what lasting change will look like in our communities. In 2021, the day was expanded to a week to provide greater opportunities to do these things. Now, it's been a phenomenal week. The expanded partnerships, I think, have really exemplified that. And of course, the reintroduction of these in-person meetings and workshops have really created the space that we need in our communities to heal. Because this is how we connect. We connect in person, right? We love Zoom, sorta, but we connect in person. That's what we do. And you may be wondering, well, what does that mean, right? We've had these workshops, we've been able to connect in person, but what does that mean for us as we move ahead? Right? Because our mental health is something we deal with every single day. And we want to see these types of spaces available to us all year round. So as I've been reflecting on this week and really reflecting on the leadership of our community who's really shown up in these spaces and delivered such important important conversations to community, resources to community, I'd like to offer about 3 key takeaways and what I'd like to call action opportunities for us. Is that okay with everyone? Can I offer those? Thank you. So I think about these action areas as what is it that we as a community need to do in solidarity to keep these conversations going, but to keep the work going and to make sure that we are ourselves, we are well all year round. The first key takeaway for me is this concept of access. We talk a lot about access. And so the first key takeaway is we need to reimagine access. As I look around this room, of course, I'm filled with joy to see all of your beautiful Black faces. And of course, I see some allies as well. I acknowledge you as well, but I'm so moved to see so many new faces in this space. But I'm also reminded that there are people who aren't here who need to be here. There are also people that we've lost. And this is important for us to name when we're thinking about access. So we must ask ourselves why, right? Where can we adjust? What do we need to do to improve access to these types of resources, opportunities to hold space together? How are we thinking about access for our children, our youth that we are raising so that they feel seen, heard, and protected in these spaces, but especially in the spaces that are outside of our brave and safe spaces, especially in those spaces in the outside world where they have to face everyone else, and they're not going to have us necessarily by their side. So what does that access look like? I also want to remind us that we have to be thinking about access for those in our community, the diverse Black communities that we are part of, who may have physical, mental, sensory, developmental disabilities, those who are suffering sometimes in silence with chronic mental health challenges. What does access look like for them to these resources and these spaces? And also, how do we ensure that they're not only invited to these conversations, but that they're leading these types of conversations, and that we provide the space for them to lead and facilitate these spaces as well. So again, ultimately, the message that I've taken away is that we need to reimagine access from a lens that we know the most marginalized people have access to these resources. We can hold them in this space so that no one gets left behind. The next key takeaway that I want to share is something that I've been really inspired by through Black Mental Health Week, because I must say the partners and all of the community do an amazing job of this. And it's the need for culturally responsive services and a service delivery model. And really that being grounded in an African-centered approach. So we know that our traditional cultures are centered around the importance of harmony of body, mind, and spirit. That's where we come from. And in a lot of ways, that's essentially the blueprint of how we can actualize wellness for us. I also think that part of what I've been reflecting on is we have to take the time to actualize this wellness by also grounding ourselves in our history, which is, what is it that our ancestors did to ground themselves, to root themselves, to persevere some unimaginable circumstances? And how do we build, learn, unlearn, learn again from those teachings? And how will we pass that down to the next generation? So whether you're a first generation, second generation like myself, seventh generation, so many of us as first or second generation Canadians, so many of us who've been forcibly displanted or settled on these stolen lands have lost or diluted our traditional ways of life to fit into this system, right? And so this interferes with our well-being. This interferes, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, with our equilibrium as a people, as individuals, and as a community. So what I have taken away from this is through the programming that we've seen, we must continue to unapologetically reclaim our traditional ways of life, sense of self, and the partnerships and activities that have taken place have further demonstrated the need and the power when we create culturally responsive spaces, just like this. Now, the final one that I want to share, that final key takeaway and action opportunity that I've been thinking about is accountability. I feel like it's a buzzword. We hear accountability all the time, but what does it actually mean? And for me, accountability, I always think about it at all levels because I think all of us have a responsibility in being accountable. Now, how will we or how will you, for example, ensure that the city is accountable to address the impacts of anti-Black racism? It's also thinking about how will our Black communities be accountable by participating actively, keyword, actively in government decision-making processes. And how will we individually honor ourselves and each other by making sure we continue to destigmatize conversations around mental health in our communities and utilize these teachings from this week and beyond to ensure that we can make these conversations and resources available this week and beyond to one another and ourselves and care for one another as we do that. Now, we've talked a lot about the city, we've talked a lot about the different partners, but I want to leave you with this. So we are looking now towards the end of the UN's International Decade for People of African Descent. And I want to invite you all to consider what the last 10 years has taught us. What have the past 5 years of the Toronto Action Plan to confront anti-Black racism, what has that taught us? And what have the past 4 years of Black Mental Health Day and Black Mental Health Week taught us? And what must we be prepared to do with this information to continue to advance the interests of our communities in solidarity for our communities? Well, for starters, I'm pleased to share that with you all that the city has committed to another 5-year action plan to confront anti-Black racism, and our unit at CABR will be starting community consultations to really help co-design that plan with all of you. And so I want to see, well, first of all, I'm taking a mental note of everyone here because I want to see you all in those community conversations. We want to see you all bringing your family, bringing your full selves to those conversations because we want to hear from you. What does the next iteration of the action plan look like to address our community's needs from the inside out? So with that, I just want to share a little bit of information. If you want to reach us, if you want to connect with us, we certainly want to connect with you, and you can reach us at cabr@toronto.ca. You can also find information on sort of the 5 years of some of the work we've done, learn more about the partners that we've been working with and collaborating with, like Taibu, at the Toronto website, and you can search CABR Toronto in your search engine and it should pop right up. And I just want to end by again thanking Taibu Community Health Center for your intentional leadership holding this space, and also thank you to the expanded and active allyship with Strides Toronto and Tropicana Community Services. Thank you all for showing up, and thank you all for showing up for each other.
Thank you very much for those words, and also thank you very much for everything that the CABR is doing for the city and for the community. Much respect and blessings. Can we get another round of applause for Messerat for representing for the culture and representing for the city? So people, we're gonna keep the entertainment, we're gonna keep everything, we're gonna keep the vibe going. This next person I would like to introduce is very special to me. I met this lady a good couple years ago, and since then we've connected, we've worked, and we have so much more to come. Now, Our next guest, her name is Keisha Christie. Now, Keisha is a dynamic... Oh, let's give her a round of applause one time. Now, for those of you who have been to any of my events, you may be familiar with Keisha. Keisha is a dynamic storyteller and speaker. She connects people and culture through Caribbean and African folk tales, stories that hook and stories that ignite the imagination. She has shared stories with listeners in the Caribbean, India, across Canada. She has performed in schools, libraries, festivals, community, and corporate and special events. She has a weekly podcast called What Good and a YouTube channel under Talking Tales, which amplifies the power of her stories. Keisha is also a board member on the Storytellers of Canada and the founder of an annual storytelling event which celebrates the oral tradition and showcases local entrepreneurs in the community. Now, in addition to that, me and Keisha, we have a huge announcement that is gonna be coming in the next couple days. We're gonna give you guys a little bit of suspense, but for those of you who are in the network, make sure you guys stay posted. If you don't have any of my business cards, I lost a whole bunch of business cards earlier today. I think they're on the back table. Just listen to what I said. I lost a bunch of business cards earlier, so make sure you go check out the back table in red, okay? So again, me and Keisha have a lot of stuff planned and a lot of stuff coming. So I want you guys to purposely look out for Talking Tales on social media and Graphics on social media over the next couple days, because people, we have a huge announcement. That's all I'm gonna say about that. In the meantime and in between time, I would like to call up my good friend, my associate, my business partner. Can I call up Miss Keisha Christie from Talking Tales?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to see all of you. I love to actually be in spaces, seeing all of your faces. Stories are important, and our stories play such a huge part in how we communicate, how we live, and in our healing. When a storyteller comes into a space in the evening after all the work is done, we look out at all of the smiling faces and we say crick. And those smiling faces looking back will say crack. Can we try that today? All right. Crick. All right, gonna need a little more energy because, you know, the stories are energy, and the way you answer lets me know whether the story is ready to flow. Let's do it again. Crick. Nice. For good measure. Crick. Long ago, there was an old woman who lived at the edge of a village. And right outside her front door was a large, beautiful pear tree. And now, the pears were yummy, they were beautiful, but she never picked them. To her dismay, the boys in the community would climb her tree, and as soon as those fruits were ready, they would pluck them, they would eat them, they would even carry their own baskets and buckets to do a whole harvest in her tree, leaving her none. But you'd think they would be kind and thankful that she took care of the tree while it was growing and the pears were ripening. But instead, they would say awful things to her. They were very ungracious. They would even call this woman Aunt Misery. And Aunt Misery would come out every day and tell them to come down from my tree, come down from my tree. And they would continue to eat her pears and hurl their insults. Well, a stranger came to town. And they came to Aunt Misery's house and said, "Can I spend the night in your place?" And she gladly accepted the stranger, gave him a nice place to sleep. The next day, after eating breakfast and stretching out, he said, "You know what? What do you wish? Anything you wish, I will grant for you." And so Aunt Misery thought about it and she said, "There's one thing that I wish. Anyone who climbs up into my pear tree should not be able to come down unless I permit it." "That's what you want?" "Yes," she said. And so that wish was granted. So the next time those boys climbed up in her tree, they came with their buckets and their baskets as usual, and the pears came down. but the boys stayed up. When Aunt Misery came out, she looked at them and she said, "Well now, how are you getting down?" Each of them tried, but all they could do was fail. Neither one could move. And of course, their insults became sweet, sweet words. They promised everything under the sun, from fresh fish every day to cleaning her yard and other things. Well, those promises were nice. And she said, "Well, I like what you have to offer," and she let them come down. You see, before, they used to think that Aunt Misery was a witch. Now, they knew for sure. And so they never dared to come back to her house, and they left her peers alone. Well, around this time, another stranger came to town, and that stranger asked if they could have a place to stay. Well, he looked very shabby and restless. And so she said, "Who are you?" And the stranger said, "I am Death, and I have come for you." And she said, "I don't think I'm ready to go yet. But before I leave, I'd like one or two of the pears at the top of the tree. Can you help me get them down?" And so Death climbed up into the tree. The pears came down, but Death stayed. And she decided she was not ready to tell Death to come down. And so a long time passed, and there was no Death anywhere. The people got older, and even some of the older people started to complain that they were tired and ready to start their next life. Well, that's when Aunt Misery went to Death and said, "If I let you down, I can do that on one condition: if you leave me here." So if you ever wonder why it is that there is misery in the world, I have to tell you this: that Aunt Misery never left. And as long as the world is what it is, then we will always have a little bit of misery. We like to think that we know everything, or at least we try to know everything. And I'd like to tell you an Anansi story. Now, how many know who Anansi is? All right. Well, for those of you who are not sure or may have forgotten, Anansi is a mythical creature with the face of a man and the body of a spider. Now, he's fashioned after the Ashanti spider god, and the Ashanti people live in Ghana. And those stories traveled across the Atlantic, through the Caribbean and the Americas and around the world. And Anansi is known for being very cunning, very smart, and very lazy every now and then. But there are things that Anansi will do in order that benefit the whole world in the end. And this is one of those stories. Crick? Did we forget? Crick? Well, Anansi was a collector of all kinds of things. He collected shoes, clothes, tires, anything that he could find in the hopes of selling them back and making himself rich. Well, of all the things that Anansi collected, on Sundays, much like today, Anansi would go to everyone's house in the village and collect Sunday dinner. He was a collector after all. Well, Anansi knew that the things that he was collecting would not make him rich. And so he needed something that the people would want and do anything for. Well, he happened to hear two friends talking and one asking the other for a little bit of advice. When he heard what was happening, Anansi knew at that moment that he needed to collect all of the common sense in the world, because if he had it all, then everyone would have to come to him for a little bit, and he would charge them big, big money. And so off Anansi went collecting his common sense. He went to very different places, and every now and then he would put what he found in a plastic bag. And of course, as plastic bags go, with one little tear, a big hole, and the wisdom started to ooze out. And so Anansi got himself a paper bag, because paper bags are stronger. But when paper bags get wet, they too split in half. So Anansi was frustrated with this process, and he decided that he needed to put it in a place where neither water nor stretched plastic could affect it. So he went and found himself a very large calabash. And a calabash is a large gourd. When you hollow it out and dry it, the outside gets hard. And so he put all of his common sense in there and added on the lid. Then Anansi needed to find a place to put his common sense, because if it was easy to get to, then no one would pay him for it. And so he looked far and wide, high and low, and much like many things my mother told me, stop looking elsewhere. You'll find everything you need at home. Anansi found his hiding spot in the eucalyptus tree in his backyard. Well, now Anansi had the task of climbing that tree. He spun a web around the top of the calabash and spun a web around his belly, and then he began to climb. 1, 2, 3, 4, Anansi fell. 1, 2, 3, 4, he fell again. Well, Anansi was falling so much that he started to draw a crowd. They came into his yard to see what this silly spider was doing. And so he climbed all the way up half and fell again. Well, the crowds were gathered and they were talking amongst each other, but that's when she arrived. Shelly Ann. Shelly Ann was a 5-year-old, the cutest 5-year-old you ever saw, with her Sunday dress and her pigtails sticking out of the sides of her head. She saw all of the grown-ups standing around and wanted to know what they were doing. She walked through the crowd to the front and looked up. That's when she saw Anansi. And she thought to herself, why isn't anyone telling him what's wrong? And so she called out, "Bernansi!" Anansi looked down. Does this child not see I'm busy? What could she want? She looked around again. No one said a word. And she said, wouldn't it make more sense to put the calabash on your back so that you can climb easily and freely? Well, here was Anansi, spending all this time collecting all of the common sense in the world, and this little girl is going to come into his yard and give her 2 cents? Well, this made Anansi so angry. Steam came out of his ears, and he grabbed that calabash and threw it to the ground. It hit the root of the tree and shattered, and wisdom took flight. It went east, west, north, south, and all around the world. So if you ever wonder why it is that there is a little bit of wisdom everywhere in the world, that's easy. It's Anansi who made it so. Jack Mandora, me not choose none. Thank you, thank you. I wanted to share a story with you about Anansi and his sons. Now, did you know that Anansi had 6 sons? And each one of them came bearing their own name. So while parents usually take the time to pick the names of their children, each of Anansi's sons came with their own. Crick! Long ago, Anansi had 6 sons, and each one of those sons came bearing their own name. There was Sea Trouble, who could see trouble far off. And then there was Road Builder, who could build a road in and around anything with accuracy. There was River Drinker, who could drink large amounts of water without ever getting full. Then there was Stone Thrower. Stone Thrower could throw a stone as far as possible in all accuracy. Game Skinner could skin any animal with ease. And then there was Cushion. Cushion was round and cushy. Well, the brothers lived very happily together, and they did everything together. And their father, Anansi, was known as a wanderer, and he would walk far and wide and be gone for long periods of time. So when 1 week passed, no one worried. When 2 weeks passed, no one was concerned. But when 3 and 4 weeks started to come, his family started to wonder what was wrong. But if you ever had that funny feeling in the back of your neck that something wasn't right, that's what happened to Sea Trouble. When he looked up, he saw what happened. His father, Anansi, had found a bright, round ball, and this ball was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. He decided to take it home, but as he turned, he fell down the side of a hill into a river and was swallowed whole by a fish. Well, Sea Trouble called his brothers and told them what had happened. And Road Builder went to work. He built the road from the village all the way down to the river. When they got to the riverside, River Drinker sucked up all of the water, leaving that big fish in the middle. They walked right up, and Game Skinner opened that fish, and Anansi stepped out. He dusted himself off, so proud of his sons. that when he pulled out the bright round ball, an eagle saw something shiny, swooped down and picked up Anansi and the ball, taking it into the sky. Well, stone thrower stooped down, picked up the stone and threw it just right, hitting the eagle, who let go of Anansi, and he fell to the earth, head over tail, until he was about to hit. But just before, Cushion stepped in between his father and the ground, so Anansi had a soft place to land. Anansi stood up, dusted himself off, and said, "Oh, my sons, the one who has done the most will get this bright, round ball." Well, that's when each of the sons told him what they had done. If it not for Sea Trouble, they would know what happened. If not for Road Builder, how would they have gotten to the river? If not for Game Skinner, who would have opened the fish? And then there was Stone Thrower. If not for him, who would have hit the eagle just right, letting go of Anansi? They could be having a different conversation. And then, if it wasn't for Cushion, they would be having a sad conversation. The brothers went on telling what they had done, but Anansi couldn't decide. And when you can't decide, you ask for help, right? So Anansi called for help from Nyame, the sky god, who came down and listened to each brother say their plight. But the brothers started to argue for the very first time. They argued and they fought. Nyame thought, I'm gonna take the ball away, and when we can decide, I will bring it back. But as he started to go back to the sky, he realized that the brothers were fighting more and more, arguing louder and louder, and things were getting worse for the brothers. So he decided that this was something that the brothers would have to enjoy together. So he hung it in the sky. And there it stood till this day. And if you want to see it, on a very clear night, you can look up and see the moon. Now we know that the moon has 8 phases, 6, 1 for each of Anansi's sons. The 7th is for the teller, and the 8th is for you, the listeners. Thank you very much. All right. This is a story that talks about how we're different. But even though we're different, there are things that we can do together and that we are mighty. So I do love to tell that Anansi story. But this story is about a bucket. And this bucket has holes. Now, the bucket was amongst many other buckets. And it was in a place where the monks would work. Now, there was one monk his job was to take each bucket down to the river, fill it up with water, and bring it back. And every day he took one full bucket and he took the bucket full of holes. And this is what happened. Day in and day out, 2 buckets took a trip. Each day they would get their way down to the river. When they came back, one was filled and the other was half empty. Now all of the other buckets were very, very mean to the bucket with holes. Why do you waste our master's time? He fills you up and you come back half empty. You do it each and every time. And the bucket with the holes said, I will work harder. I will try my best to keep the water inside. Well, day in and day out, the bucket still came back half empty. Well, finally the bucket wailed when the monk picked him up and said, why do you pick me every day? You know I have holes. All of the other buckets say that I'm useless. Why do you keep picking me? And the monk said one thing. Today on the way to the river, tell me what you see. And on the way back, tell me what you see. And so the monk did what he always did. He picked the 2 buckets up, he went down to the river, picked up the water, and came back. He asked the bucket that was whole, what did you see? And that bucket said, I saw nothing but dirt. And then he asked the bucket with the holes, what did you see? And the bucket said, on the way to the river, I saw dirt. But on the way back, I saw flowers, beautiful flowers. Yes. Because when I knew that you had a hole, or many holes, I planted seeds. And each day when we come back from the river, you water those seeds. And the flowers feed the bees that make the honey that we sell. And also, my brother over there is blind, but yet he can find his way to the river and back because of the flowers that we now leave behind. Thank you. I want to thank everyone. You guys are great, great listeners. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. So now you guys can see why Keisha Christie is performing at all my events. Because every time she tells those Anansi stories, it just brings me back to my childhood when I was 5 and 6 and I used to hear those stories. So as a grown-up, like I said, it was I think 2017 when my mom was hosting an event and she booked Keisha Christie. I'm standing and I was like, oh my goodness. Like, you know what it feels like to hear a story that you haven't heard in like 25 years? So we all grew up listening to Anansi's story. So again, when I first heard it, it just brought that tingling feeling, you know, that warm feeling inside. So with that being said, can we get another round of applause for Keisha Christie for everything she's doing with the storytelling and such. All right, so right about now, we're gonna call up Mr. Sankofa. He wants to do a quick thing one more time. Mr. Sankofa, can we get a round of applause? He's back for more. We love the vibe, we love the energy. Let's go, brother.
Yes, yes. Hey, I'm gonna teach you a couple words. I think I'm working with 4.5 minutes. So this work I'm giving you is 10,000 years of stories in 4.5 minutes. So I'm gonna teach you a couple things. In Ghana, when people want people to keep quiet and the children to listen, they say ago. The children usually say amen, and they're paying deep attention. So let's see this. I'm giving you 10 seconds of my time. If I say ago, you say amen. Ago. Amen. I know you eat. Eh. Ago. Amen. Ago. Amen. Wonderful. So now we can start. As you see our children in the school, shites them, I watch my language, in the school shites them in the misedification of our minds. And so one of the things we always say in Africa, we never leave things to chance. Everybody say rites of passage. East Africa, West Africa, North Africa, South, we always had a right. We tell young people when they're born, we gave them their name. When they go into puberty, we had a puberty rites. When they came together as villages, we had a marriage ceremony rites. We cannot depend on systems that don't love us to heal us. You want the crime and violence to stop? Introduce rites. Wood green rites. African rites of passage. Everybody say rites of passage. Everybody say Iwa. I can't hear you. Iwa. The Yoruba people say character. It says, if you have 10 children, but you don't have Iwa, the children is not yours. It says, if you have BS degrees, I won't tell you what BS stands for, or you have more S, like MS degrees, it says if you don't have Iwa, you don't have no letters beside your name. Everybody say Iwa. Iwa. Everybody say Mahat. Everybody say Mahat. When the children misbehave in my summer Afrocentric camp and they bully others, I said, you are not practicing Mahat. Mahat means order, justice. Everybody say justice. Truth. Reciprocity. I can't hear you. Reciprocity. Balance. Harmony. Everybody say Mahat. If you teach the children their ancient teachings, you don't have to worry about them. People who know themselves don't destroy themselves. You hear me what I'm just saying to you people? Stop looking for governments to solve our problems. You institute rites of passage, violence will stop internally and horizontally. You don't have to tell African people know themselves to take care of their children. Because their rites of passage would make sure we pass on the next generation. Everybody say Iwa. Everybody say Mahat. I'm going to finish up with a story with my 4 minutes before they come and take me off the stage. The reason why Europeans are always afraid of Africans, they're afraid of our spirituality. So they ban the drums. They banned the drums. Africans took the empty oil drums and made pan. They put the drums in the pan. Because you can't ban our drums. That's our spirituality. Everybody say drums. Everybody say drums. So I'm going to share this game with you today. Everybody say awari. I can't hear you. Say awari. When they banned the drums in the Caribbean, in Antigua, the Africans took this game across the Atlantic. And by the time it reached Antigua, it's called Wari. Everybody say Wari. It's an ancient board game older than chess. It's a mathematical, cultural, fun, and interactive game. You teach your children this, they become literacy, they become numeracy, and they become powerful. Everybody say Awari. Awari. And as I going to leave the stage now with my 4.5 to 5 minutes, nobody outside of yourself can heal yourself. You institute your Afrocentric principles and teachings and parables. The minute you let other people take care of your house, you no longer own your house. I am Sankofa. You must Sankofa. Show me a child that acting strange is because they have not Sankofa. Sankofa means go back to your roots so you can go forward. Go back to your roots so you can go forward. It is time we, the elders, stop leaving our children to the streets. My young brother, Randall, he spoke to you. My young African people from Trinidad, we are Pan-African. Everybody say Pan-African. No matter where you come from, everybody say no matter where you come from. No matter where you come from. As long as you're black, you're an African. Yeah, joke with me now. Don't joke with me. Take up my 30 seconds here, sir. All right, before I leave, I'm going to ask you to do something because I've been sitting all day, you know. Everybody get up for a second. Get up. Everybody get up. Get up. All right, now I want you to follow me as I come off of the stage. Everybody sing with me. Get up. Stand up. Stand up for your right. Get up. Stand up. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Buffalo soldier, 3 little birds, no woman, no cry. Black women, they are the creation. They are the first mothers of creation. Everybody say, get up, stand up. If you want to heal your nation, take control of your own liberty. But done. But done, now come off my stage.
Okay. That's a hard act to follow. And they're all hard acts to follow today. What a day. What a day. What a day. Beautiful performances and a beautiful, beautiful ceremony today. Just want to acknowledge a few people who've made a significant contribution to this. And for those of you who weren't here this morning, I'm stepping in for Lieven Gabriel Michael, who is the CEO of Taibu, but who couldn't be here today, unfortunately. And I see a few people in the room. So I see Janet McCrimmon from Strides, who's been a supporter from early, so thank you. And I also saw Raymond Goost, and he got up, so I don't know where he went, but I want to thank Tropicana. And Andrea is also here, and Deborah, who's spoken from Strides as well. And there's a number of other partners who I don't think are in the house, but I want to acknowledge Delta. I also want to acknowledge the Black Health Alliance, and I see Dr. Morgan's here. And Dr. Morgan, who founded the Black Health Alliance, which gave birth to Taibu. So we can't thank him enough. Want to acknowledge Women's Health and Women's Hands, the Loyan Foundation, the George Health Center, and the Africa Center, which is our partner out of Edmonton. Can't believe I'm standing here. It's almost 4 o'clock, and we are putting another Black Mental Health Week to bed. But the work doesn't end. And not just the work of planning the next Black Mental Health Week, but the work of healing that we've talked so much about today. I really want us to stay focused, to take action around our own individual needs, recognize the needs of yourself and recognize the needs of others, and support each other. Can't say enough about CABR, or CABR as Messeret called it. They have been here from the get-go. They have been a fantastic partner as this Black Mental Health Week event builds out. I want to thank all of you for being here and being a part of this. The audience, the vendors, the folks from Taibu who are our staff who are here today, thank you all very much. I know it's almost 4. I'm not going to take any more time. I'm going to turn the mic over to Brian, who can come up and close out the event. Thank you again.
All right, thank you, Phil, thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming out today and spending your Sunday afternoon with us, especially after daylight savings, losing an hour of sleep, but you know what, it's all worth it, right? We're all here to celebrate Black Mental Health Week. Very, very important initiative. Just to reiterate, I want to say thank you to a bunch of people that have contributed to this awesome week. A lot of the times, a lot of efforts goes into this, and I don't want anyone to go unnoticed. So if all of the planning committee that is here today, can you please come up to the front? I just want to acknowledge everyone: Andrea, Deborah, May, Christiana, Mesnaret, Michelle. I think there might be Mesnaret, Michelle, and to be honest, we've been working together for the past 6 months. This is my first time meeting some of them. Right? So if there's anyone here that is on the planning committee and I haven't called you up, can you also please come up here? But guys, come on. So this is just part of the team, but these are the folks that, long days, early morning, late nights, took their time to put this week together. And it's just going to get bigger and better, and I appreciate all of your time. I know I said this to you before, but I really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm not the emotional type, but okay, so I also want to thank Jamal, my co-host right here, and Pro Graphics. I want to thank the DJs, all of the vendors that helped contribute to this day, and this week, photo opportunity, sorry. So from Zoom calls to in-person interaction, I love it. All right, so we're about to close the show, but we actually have one last performance, up-and-coming R&B artist, Vita. All right, let's give it up for Vita, y'all.
All right, so my name is Vita, and this song is basically, when we all go through some things, and we just want that one person to lean on, this is what it's all about.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, but it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can feel those of your needs that you won't let show. So just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. We just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on me. Sing it! When you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Thank you. Follow my Insta at vita.s, veeta.ess if you guys want to hear more music. Thank you.
Can we get another round of applause for Vita for this wonderful performance? So I want to just take a second and I want to just acknowledge something that I noticed here today. One thing I noticed about all my events is that there's never a shortage of women hustlers, women entrepreneurs, and women bosses. So a lot of times, you know, on the road and on the streets, we like to have the notion that the men, them are the hustlers, the men are the bosses, the men are on the show, the men are making the money, right? But I've been working with local businesses for the past 15 to 20 years, extensively for the past 3 to 5 years. And one thing I've noticed is that the real hustlers, the real bosses, the real plethora of entrepreneurs, I have to give the shout out to the ladies. Now, it's so fitting that we're doing this ceremony here today at the City of Toronto Archives, surrounded by this lovely, all this wonderful artwork of black women who have done wonders and positive things for people in Canada. We have beautiful, lovely women vendors. We had lots of female performers today, and we're surrounded by Canadian black greatness. So can we get a round of applause for our beautiful atmosphere today? Because if it wasn't for a lot of these black women that are on this wall, a lot of us wouldn't be here where we are today. I also want to give a big shout out to another lady that's been doing positive things in the community. I don't know if she's still here, but I just want to give a big shout out to Masani Montague. Masani is the founder of Rasta Fest and her new project, Sister Fest. So I want you guys to make sure you check out Masani. I want you, Masani, put your hands up so everyone knows where you are. She's right there. Make sure you ask her for a flyer. Make sure you check out the annual Rasta Fest and the new event, Sister Fest. Now, we're about to close the show. I want to know, did you guys have a great time here today? I did. Did you guys have, put your hands together if you had a great time today. So as we close up the show, there's a thing that I usually like to do. I don't like to close the show on a soft vibe. I don't like people to go home dreary and all these things. So before we go, we're gonna do a little experiment, a little exercise. So I want to give a big shout out to all the local vendors. If you guys haven't checked out the vendors, make sure you take a circle around the venue before you go and shop local and support local. Also want to give a big shout out to Balloons by Artina for providing the decor here today. I want to shout out Foresight Video for providing the videography and the photos. I want to give a big shout out to my DJ Ryan from D&D Sound Crew, alongside Mr. Black's Done the Place, aka Mr. Working Hours. To put on an event like this, it takes a lot of support and it takes a lot of commitment. And I would not be able to do anything that I'm doing here today without the help, and literally I would not be able to do it without the help of my mom, Sandra. So I want to call up my mom. Come on. So some of you know that I do a lot of work with my mom, Sandra. If it wasn't for her, literally I wouldn't be here today. But also if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be putting on a lot of these events that you guys see. So anything you guys see me doing, you really got to give thanks to Mama Sandra, Mama EPG. So can we get a round of applause for my mom for giving me the inspiration and daily motivation to keep me doing what we're doing. Now this week is all about black mental health. So I have to big up my mom, because my mom knows how hard I work non-stop, but my mom also calls me every day and she says to me, Jamal, did you eat today? Jamal, did you sleep? Jamal, what do you have to do? What do you need help with? So I want to give a big shout out to my mom for always making sure I'm good and making sure I'm healthy and strong. Now, I talked a lot today. I want to give a big shout out to my co-host Brian. Now I want to end the day on an energetic note. I want to end the day on a positive note. So I'm gonna play a song, but when I play this song, I need everybody to get up and I need everybody to participate. Now when I'm looking at the faces in the crowd, I'm not judging, but I know that everybody knows this song. Some of you know it so well that you all may have been in the club partying and jamming to this song. So I'm gonna need the folks of the older generation to show myself and the younger ones here how this is done, okay? So again, when this song plays, whether you're 2 years old or 102, I want to see everybody up on their feet and I want to see everybody moving, because I want everybody to have energy, vibes, and a good time. DJ Ryan, are you ready? Let's go! All right, everybody up. If you know, I know you guys know this song. I know y'all know this song. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
You can't see it, it's electric. You've got to feel it, it's electric.
It's all about black mental health.
Jig was scattered with electric, belly she's moving with electric.
It's a vibe.
You've got to know it, it's electric. You can't hold it, it's electric.
Now do remember, we got the vendors. The vendors are open still. All right, I want everybody to put your hands together. If you had a good time. I see my brother in the back having a good time. I love it. I love it.
And from this music I just can't.
Energy, energy, energy.
Are you coming with me? Let me take.
Now make sure y'all go take your picture by the picture booth. I'm gonna be walking around. I want to take a picture with everybody here today.
I'll teach you the electric slide. Some say it's a mystic, it's electric. You can't resist it, it's electric. You can do without it, it's electric. Such a big Miss Molly, she's feeling jolly, she's moving with electric, she's showing out the move. You don't
Naturalist Clinic. Big up Greatest Blends. Alright, DJ, cut that. Because I bigged up the ladies already, but I think I want to big up the ladies again, because we're surrounded by beautiful women. DJ Ryan, are you ready? Let's go. What's today? What's tonight? I want to know what tonight is. I want to know what tonight is. You know it. Make sure y'all hand out your business cards. Shop local. I think we still got some food, so if you didn't eat, go get a plate to go. Go get a plate to go. I'm not going home with any food. Go get a plate to go. Stop it. Okay, hold on. Before we get to the next song, Dr. Patsy, every time she comes to my event, she's giving a discount on the bottle. So make sure you come check Dr. Patsy right now. Now, I'm gonna do something right now. And again, one type of vibe from this event. DJ Ryan, let's go. Hold on. Because of one thing. There's one reason why I love doing these events. Hear my story. Hear my story now.
And have a good time. Celebration.
For coming out here today and supporting this event. If you shared the flyer on social media, if you reposted it, if you told a friend or family, we want to say we love you, we want to say blessings, and we want to say thank you for doing your part and to help make this a successful event. We are going to play a couple more songs as we, get that social time going. Make sure you check out the vendors, shop local, support local, and it's all about checking out the free books. I guess not. Shelly, Frazier, some pictures. If you want to take some pictures, let's go. DJ Ryan.
Chalo, come on and give me your love. Chalo, girl, come on and give me your love. It's like I can't stop loving you. Close my eyes, I just think about hearts with love and devotion. Tears of joy, baby, love it's emotion. Let the two of we sail across the ocean. Naturally stick through the breeze makes love ocean. Hey, cause I never felt love like this. No, never felt love like this. No, never felt love like this. No, never felt love like this. I'm on my love and you can rely. I will stay with you. Oh, I will stay with you through your ups and your downs. I will stay with you when no one else is around. And when the dark clouds arrive, I will stay. Don't look me, yeah. Would you be at one of my shows? Good love. Would you be in front of my face? Yeah. Good love. Something that I wanna embrace. Yeah. Not a king size bed, but no queen.
Quiero amarte para siempre. Enséñame cómo amar incondicionalmente.
Unconditional love. She ain't looking for no diamonds, ain't digging for no gold. 1st of January, set your heart's been in remission, making a new beginning, and a new position to make a better decision. Then you head to the corner store and forget what you went through.
Ooh, I met a girl this morning. She was love at first sight. Ooh, I met a girl this morning, and she was beauty to my eyes. I asked her where she from, she tell me in the tropics. She asked me what's my name, I tell her I am Connie. Smile for me, Jamaica. And I said smile, girl smile. Ooh Lord, smile for me, Jamaica. And never you cry, here am I. Girl, I'm here for you, Jamaica. Dry your eyes, girl smile. Smile for me, Jamaica.
Natural African black woman, bless adore you. Give you a man, I adore you. Natural African black woman, bless adore you. Give you enough attention, me go don't ignore you. Give you all my time, girl, I have to explore you. Embrace, no maga man, I adore you. Everything I have for you, girl, is love. My shirt, my pants, my shoes, I say love. My hands to my feet, I say love. When I look into your eyes, I see love. My loving empress, come and give me more love. You want love? The counteraction for all evil is love. Natural African black woman, bless adore you, adore you. Give you enough attention, people don't ignore you. Give you all my time, girl, I have to explore you. Embrace, no matter man, I adore you.
Just yesterday, you came around my way. You changed my horse in way with your astonishing beauty. Oh, you couldn't make a brother sing. No ordinary thing, a supernatural being. And no, you are brighter than the moon, brighter than the star. I love you just the way